Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page podcast. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. This is episode 12 of the Junk Journaling podcast, and today we're going to have a look at the difference of creative expression within a journal, the extremes from one end to the other. What are they? How do we use them? Why do we use them? Should we use them? And what different styles could you apply to your journaling that may change throughout the year, depending on your mood or the season or what you're feeling, what you're going through personally, how your life affects you in an artistic way, your expression in your creativity. So let's have a little look at that. So when we do journaling, the obvious, nice, safe place is maybe to be in a pastel colour, a light colour tone, something that is generic and safe. Butterflies, flowers, birds, all of those imagery, absolutely fine. Everything is nice and summery and spring-like, and that's great. But we don't have spring all the time. It's not summer all the time. Sometimes it's hot and it's hard, and sometimes it's raining and cold and we are struggling. And just as nature struggles outside with the wind and the rain and the driving heat or the storms and the electrical bolts of lightning, so do we. As a human race, we are affected by those things. We're affected by the weather, but we're affected by our constant changing world around us. So why should our journaling be generic and simple all the time? Our lives aren't, so our art is naturally going to want to reflect the mood and how we feel. It's not all rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes it's a little bit like a moody, dark, decaying old woodshed. Sometimes life is like that. Sometimes we had days like that where it's cold, it's dark, there are cobwebs, and it's lonely. And there are going to be moments in your life when that is okay to journal about that, because that's real. All the different styles that you will see in journaling, from a grunge journal, a vintage journal, an eclectic journal, a retro journal, they're all expressions of how we feel. And where there's light in any artwork, there's always going to be dark as well. There's going to be the grunge and the other side of things that involves maybe the lesser talked about styles and the different colour tones that you might use for the more moody, sultry pages in your journal that you might want to do, or ephemera, or a theme. We tend to see those things around autumn and Halloween, and then we might have fall and the fall colours, the autumn russets and the oranges and the low light and the glowing embers of fires and bonfires and things like that, and that brings charcoal, charred wood, gnarled wood, old forests and mushrooms, toadstools, and animals that are more creepy crawly, and part of what we would look into as decay. A decay as things rot back and change. Well, that's part of our natural world. It has to happen. Trees, seeds, leaves, they all die back. So they turn into soil, the soil rejuvenates, and then up comes the next seedlings and new growth. So wherever you see a breakdown, a decay, a spoiling, a mould, a rot, you will see the creatures that are clearing it up, the louse, the cockroach, the ants and the wasps, things that clear up the dead matter. And that is okay. That's part of it. We have to have that in order for growth to happen. So wherever there is complete destruction and things fall and there's rubble and there's chaos, there's always a rebuild. There's always renewing. And that is part of our journaling. So if we want to add some of these colours that remind us of this earthy decay, the things that that are breaking down and enabling us to replenish. When you think of the natural world, like a plant would die back and then it would have a period of dormancy where the colours would be grey or brown or white, and they wouldn't be green and fresh and alive and full of sap or juice or energy. They wouldn't have their leaves unfurling. So before all of that happens, we have to go through the brown and the grunge and the stain and the rot and the decrepit peeling of paint and things like that, and the wasteland and dust and ash. And all of those things should be just as exciting as the fluffy bunnies and the lovely sunshine fields of roses and poppies and buttercups. So all of that is to come, but first we have to go through the ugly, and that's fine. What's wrong with that? Let's embrace that, because that's just as passionate and just part of who we are, as much as anything else. So this time of year for us in the UK, I am talking about autumn. So it's a time for settling down. There's a mulch on the ground. Everything's rotting down. There are mushrooms and there is mist and there is a sense of the cold as the sun is hibernating, and we are all just sleeping, and so are the animals. And for that, we need to maybe think of forlorn, forgotten places. Maybe that takes us to houses that have got no heating and therefore they are ruins, and then there's all of that intrigue and that sort of the lost sense of life and living. But that could be just as intriguing, just as mystical, and more inviting in a way for us to explore that, what's behind the ruined castle door as we creep through the rusty hinges that creak when we push it open. What's up that twisted stairwell of forgotten places, the dusty cobweb with the light shining, glinting off an old candlestick that has fallen over and has dripping wax down the side of the windowsill. How about that as an image? So that is intriguing, it's exciting, it's the beginning of a story. Where does the stairwell lead? Does it go up? Does it go down? Are we going to the cellar? Are we going to a tower? Are we going to somewhere where there's a coat of arms, there's armour, there's medieval candelabras and windows in this forlorn castle on a hill? That's interesting. So there's another imagery of where it's decay and it's disintegrating, but it's still exciting, it's still intriguing. So that's the sort of idea that we maybe shouldn't shy away from when we look at our colour palette and we think about the greys and the moody blues, and we adding black to darken our colours, such as our purples for the berries, the squashed rotting fruit that is going to be of this time of year. And then things that are chipped, like broken jewellery, and there's beauty in all of that. There's beauty in the dented metal silver or a tarnished brass. It all comes with its aging effects and its certain patina and verdigris of the copper as it turns from shiny, golden, glinting light to a dull but yellow and ultimately blue, turquoise blue, bubbling paint-like substance on the side of a copper pan that once used to be shiny and hanging in a kitchen. It is now outside, full with water overflowing and the birds feeding out of it. There's all this wonderful imagery that you get when you think about the secret garden and things that have been locked away and allowed to regrow and become overgrown over the years. And I think that those are images that are quite interesting to take into our journaling just as much as anything else, because it's real, it's part of our lives, and we are often a beautiful mess. We have the ability to shine and be amazing, but we also have times in our world, in our lives, in our weeks and days where we're not 100% upbeat. We're suffering from an illness, or we're trying to reach somebody who can't be reached, or we are trying to catch up with friends, and it's just impossible because of our schedules. And those are times where we feel a loss or a loneliness, or times where we feel bleak, and that is okay. Everybody's going to go through that, just as a plant will die back, but it will come back again in more favourable, warmer times. We just have to wait for the more favourable, warmer times, don't we? And then we will journal that as well. We journal the good, we journal the bad, we journal everything, and we channel it. We're doing it all the time, whether we're writing it down or painting it or not. We are going through it and documenting these moments in our lives, in our families' lives, is just as important as documenting the trips that we took and the fun stuff that we did. We also may have gone through the most horrendous something that was really, really difficult, but we overcame it, and it's still worth putting it down in a journal or on a page. And that moment, that time that was really hard, would it be nice if it were a splash of brown and grey and splattered, and the emotion is just slapped down on the paper in front of you, and then you can add something that maybe represented that particular day or moment or week, that whole year of your life where you were just not sure of who you were or what was happening to you. There are times in everybody's life where that is the case. And was that for you a total destruction moment? Was that a low point? And how did you get through it? And what colours were in that moment when you think of that time? Maybe you're in that time right now. What colour is it? Is it cold in there? Is it dark? Is it hopeful? Is there a chink of light? Maybe that needs to be a page in itself on a journal, or a piece of artwork that you make separately and then put in a journal, like a piece of ephemera that you make. So that's what we're looking at the moment, because we're going through something. We're going through a change of season, and whether it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you will be experiencing a change of season, and the temperatures will change, and the pressures will change, and the weather will change, and the light will change, and that is constant for everybody around the world. You cannot get around it. It's going to change. The only thing you can rely on is change. So let's change with it. Let's flow. Let's be the river. Let's go with it, and let's put it down on paper as it comes and enjoy the experience. So we put down the colours that we're feeling, we put down the mood of where we want to go, and then we embrace what we are experiencing on a day and a week and a monthly basis. So there we go. These are the thoughts of the day. Thoughts as we have a little look, as we descend into festivals and times like that. What does that mean to you? Is that there's lots to do and it's very busy? Or is it a loneliness that you're going to experience in the next few weeks? Does it have to be lonely? Does it matter if it's lonely? You're only lonely because you are thinking that way. You are surrounding yourself with people because you think that might be the thing to do. But what if you don't want people around you? Or what if you want lots of people around you? Whatever it is, you have the ability to change your life. And you will be journaling about it. So what are the pages ahead going to look like for you? And that is the power of a journal. You can plan ahead, you can think ahead, you can look at that and you can think, I've got my journal for this month. I can map out the pages of how I might like them to go with a theme completely unrelated to my life, and you can merrily go on your way and you can put down things that is just for a theme. Say it's cookery, or it is Jane Austen novel, or it's something that you may want to journal about. Well, throughout that journal, you cannot do the same page. Every page is going to be different. And for the variety, for the spice that will be part of your life and part of the life of the journal, it's going to have a variation of colour tones and ideas. And so when you're doing your journal, don't just go with the flowers and the happy and the smiley, but bring in some of the darker side, the decay and the loss and the bleak. That's fine, because as you turn through your journal and you're going through pages that are maybe more difficult to look at, because it's like the chili in the chocolate. You'd rather have the chocolate, let's face it, than have your head blown off with some chili. But without the chili experience, sometimes you wouldn't know that you just like chocolate without chili. So sometimes in a journal, particularly if you're selling them or wanting to give them away, have a nice bouncing variety all the way through. So as the pages turn, there are some interesting other things that are maybe a little bit edgy, a little bit out there, to get the viewer or you, whether it's a personal thing, to really think and not just play it safe, because life isn't safe and we cannot stay in the safe lane. We have to sometimes overtake and navigate and go round. And when we're doing that, we are exploring, we're getting out of our comfort zone, and we're learning. And it's in the learning that we then grow, and we have to grow because that is what we are designed to do. We're designed to do that as creative people, and we're designed to do that as humans. So we will grow the same as the plant grows, and if you're experiencing anything that is unfavourable right now, that is part of it, and embrace it and get it down into your journal in a really positive way, something that you are proud of. Use a different technique, use a different colour palette, use a different way of thinking, and just experience something else from your usual. If you use lace all the time, use a different fabric. If you're using coffee to dye your papers, try a different colour. Maybe try a fruit dye, an avocado dye, or try ink or watercolours. If you are just writing in the same pen that you've always had, try a different ink pen, change the colour of your ink. Maybe use a fountain pen and go into a traditional way. Maybe try and use a quill or a paintbrush, or have a look at some calligraphy. Maybe turn the page a different way and write on a side, write upside down, round in circles. Do something a little bit offbeat, a little bit different. It will just make your journaling experience exciting, and when you look back in time, you'll rediscover things that you did that you either like or would never do again, but you will have learnt that is either the thing to do or not to do. And if we don't try, then we will never know. And you have to know, because you'll never learn. So those are obviously good advice pieces for anybody's life. But when it comes to creative journaling, definitely there's a whole world of different applications that you can bring to a creative journal, and you will want to be exploring all those different things. If you've never added beads to your journal, maybe you could have some swinging beads hanging off of this journal. Maybe you would like to try a different fabric, so try looking at silk, or instead of going for lace, what about some wool or knitted fabric and embroidery. Have you shied away from sewing? It doesn't matter if your stitches are neat. So you could do on a darker page some stitches that are deliberately exaggerated and wonky and scruffy. That could be really fun. And maybe adding some paint to some fabric, which is something you might not feel comfortable doing. So whatever you don't feel comfortable doing is something worth exploring when we are looking at a journal that maybe is more of a grunge tone to it, or has elements of a grunge tone. So yes, explore and embrace the uncomfortable, because life isn't comfortable. And if you would love to be comfortable and that is the only place that you are able to cope with and the only place you want to be right now, that's fine. But remember, you are also going to heal and go through things a lot easier if you acknowledge some of the painful bits. And you might then want to try different techniques to make the painful bits more easy, more palatable, more preferable. And just remember that a snake sheds its skin and then it grows. A rabbit will molt and then it will feel better because it will shed off that skin. So a leaf will fall from a tree and it will turn into earth, and then the nutrients, the nitrogen will go into the soil and it will help the seeds to grow. So we have to shed off the stuff. We have to shake off the things that are holding us back, and we have to go for it, and go for it in creative ways. It's the only thing that's going to feel right and set you free. It's safe to do so in a journal because it's yours, and you can always glue the pages shut. If you didn't like it, you can move on to the next page. But the point is, have a go. Have a go this week at a grunge page of utter carnage and decay, and look at the natural world and the rot and the twisted, gnarly ugliness that is in nature, which is often interesting and quite beautiful if you stop to look at it hard enough, as I know you will, because you are a creative person that notices things. A spider is a bit creepy, but a spider's web is a work of art. A twisted, broken tree may creak in the wind and at night casts a shadow which is frightening, but in the day it houses a home for a nesting bird, and it will look after that bird and keep it sheltered. So everything has its purpose of being here. And we are all part of this wonderful world. So let's journal about the good and the bad and feel great about journaling all of it and not holding back just because we think that is what others will accept. Others will accept the real deal because it is real. And if you can display that throughout a journal that you're planning on giving or selling, the variety within it will be exciting and different and modern and fun. And the reader or the owner will find that that unique element that you added to your projects changes and lifts it and gives it that edge and ultimately adds value to your work. So that is for the journal maker out there, and anybody else just wanting to express themselves in a creative journal. Have a go. Don't shy away from the dark side. Embrace it and enjoy it. It will ultimately help you through whichever twists and turns you find yourself in this week. And I think it's healthy, and we should definitely go with the flow and see whatever we feel and journal whatever we feel. Put it down on paper and go forth and make amazing things happen in the future, and that will pave the way for regrowth and regeneration. Thank you guys for listening. I will be back on Thursday. I hope you've had a wonderful time here at the Treasured Page. And in order to make Treasured Pages, we have to put the effort in and we have to think outside the box. So let's do that. Move forward to brighter times and acknowledge the dark just as much as the light. Enjoy it, embrace it, and above everything else, guys, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye-bye now.